All right, we're back today. You know Connor, he's been on a few other episodes. Today we're going to piss some people off because it seemed like we really got under some of your skins when Connor kind of took a shot at the value of McLarens. Not really sure why that bothered some people. I mean, you can be a McLaren fan. They make some beautiful cars, but let's be completely honest. In the world of exotic supercars, McLarens do take some of the biggest hits. Them, Aston Martin.
Yep.
You can love them all you want, but I mean, we were looking at some. What were we posting when we saw a couple ads? They were 3-year-old 720Ss or that 570S, the 570S, the MSO car that in 3 years dropped 160K.
Yeah, it's pretty common, and I mean, it's McLaren. It's their build quality. I believe plays a huge part of it. I mean, the 720S, it's not a secret. It's cheap power, but the interiors are garbage. They're horribly made. I mean, I've seen clips of an A-pillar just falling off.
Yeah, the clips that hold it to the actual chassis. You actually do any type of performance driving or you ride a curb a little bit, it's popping these things off.
Yep. And you're speaking with a detailer this week who said he was pulling one onto a driveway and you could literally hear the dash creaking as it went onto the curb, like on the standard driveway, which is ridiculous. Like that's just.
And we know someone who actually had to have McLaren come to his house, send a repair person because the carbon chassis was delaminating.
Yeah, it's brutal. I used to work in the car world, I guess the car industry, for a very short amount of time, but we had a MP412C in our dealership, and this is actually kind of a funny story. So I sat on one side of the car, and then my boss sat on the other side of the car, and we had just demoed it for a client just in the showroom, and he locked it, went to put the keys back, and because I was on the right hand side of the car, all the lights were still on. So the mirror light, the tail light, and the headlight were on. Now from his perspective, the lights were off, and I called him out. I said, "Hey, did you did you leave a light on or something in the car?" And he's like, "Nope." He's like, it's off. And sure enough, I went to the other side, and literally right down the middle, I've never seen another car do this, but the whole left hand side was like off and locked, and the whole right hand side of the car was on. It's just like the whoever's doing the wiring at McLaren, they are not they're not a byproduct, or what would you call it? They're certainly, they don't represent good quality in terms of their craftsmanship, not anymore at least.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, you take them on track and they're really fun. McLaren gives you a great performance package, but I don't know, maybe it's because they've only really been making production vehicles for 14 years now? Yeah,
I think the 12C came out in like 2010, 2011, something around there. I'm not a big McLaren fan, so I'll confess I don't know a ton about the cars. I know they all have bi-turbo V8s, and I think now they have a bi-turbo V6 in some of their cars, but from my understanding, it's a really tunable powertrain.
Yes.
But the 720S, they're throwing rods now. Like they're having massive internal combustion engine failures. So I know a lot of them are on warranty, or they're getting these replacement engines. It's like $100,000 to replace.
Wow.
So, but yeah, you can get huge power. Downpipes in a tune, easily 800 horse, 900 horse.
Yeah.
So they're super quick,
and the cars are sexy. I won't take anything away. If you got a poster on your wall, I get it. If that's your dream car, that's cool. But if that's what you're looking to buy,
not as an investment.
That's just it. If you don't care what it depreciates, always go buy your dream car.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. You're always going to have flaws. Every manufacturer does.
Yeah.
But you have to accept that you can buy some vehicles that are worth more when you're done having your fun.
Absolutely.
And you can buy some where you lose 30 or 40%. Would you buy a house if you knew you were going to lose 30 or 40%?
Yeah, no.
There you go. So I think we're ragging on McLaren a little bit, but I think
McLaren did make, not to cut you off, but McLaren made the F1 and the P1. It seems like whenever they put a letter in front of a number and that number is a 1, they make a really good car, because obviously the F1s have gone up insane in value. We've spoke about that. The P1s are doing quite well too.
As well they should. I think it's a gorgeous car. I think the whole point is, we let in a bit strong, is that just be careful what you're buying. He's overstating the reasons why they depreciate so quick. And maybe in the upcoming years, McLaren will address the issues and start building cars with a little more quality control. So they start building that heritage, because no one would question McLaren's history in F1.
No, definitely not.
You can't. The era of your Sennas and Prosts, and even when Hamilton started driving with them, they were doing quite well. And, the Haakenens and Coulthards, that really, the cars were stellar.
Oh, yeah.
But building a road-going car that has to last longer than 90 minutes?
Yeah, they just haven't cracked that.
They haven't cracked it yet.
And
they're a decade old.
The Senna is incredible, but people seem to forget that, I think it was, his name's Alejandro Solomon or Salamandran on Instagram. He had a Senna, and he was taking his wife out to dinner in it, and it burned down in the valet. And she almost, I think something happened where she almost got like some level of burning done to her, because it lit up right away. And, he was really he was a McLaren customer for like 6 years, and then never again. He'll never own another McLaren. So they've had issues like quality control issues, fire issues. I mean, other manufacturers have as well, but I don't know if they necessarily treat their customers as well as other companies, because maybe they're new to that space. They're new to the consumer market. They've only, like you said, been around for like 14 years.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, everyone I know that has a 720, even the guys that were the first ones in Canada to get in our group, they were reporting electrical issues from day one.
It's just all British cars.
Yeah, in the first 6 to 8 months, they were spending 3 to 4 months getting shipped back to a dealership somewhere. And we don't have a dealership locally, so you got to ship it to either Vancouver or Toronto, I think, at this point.
Yeah, Vancouver, I think, is the closest.
Yeah.
And that's a small operation. I've been to that facility a few times, and they don't have a huge shop. So I'd imagine the wait list is pretty long, considering there are a lot of McLarens, like especially where we're at. I see probably as many McLarens as I do like Ferraris.
Oh, yeah. We have, just in our close group, there's 8 or 9 McLarens. Like I don't think anyone still has an MP4 anymore. They sold them all. But there's a whole bunch of 720s in the group now. We got a bunch of 650s, 570s. Yeah, even the diehard McLaren guys, they're like, maybe I should have waited till they were used and let the depreciation happen. But again, when you're playing up at that game, you can afford to lose a bit of money. I'm just worried that people without a lot of money going after their first car, they do need to understand what is out there. And we will rag on other brands soon.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just because you guys got back and a little bit of feedback saying, a lot of dislikes on that video. And I mean, you're welcome to hit dislike here, but maybe listen to it so you understand what you're up against, especially if you need to keep the value in your car.
Absolutely. And I mean, for the price point, like if you want a car that you're going to show off in, like a 720S, where you got those crazy, they call them billionaire doors. You got the insane carbon tub, monocoque, all the tech. It's pretty good bang for your buck. The styling's nuts. I mean, the only thing that you can kind of get for the same price, and this is obviously before COVID pricing, was like an Aventador. But even I don't know. I don't think the Aventadors have aged particularly well, since they've made so many variations of it. Like the first gens just don't look good anymore, in my opinion. That's
I gotta admit, I wasn't a fan at the beginning, and the moment Top Gear, they had one of the first ones, and they were testing. They're like, "This is boring. This is boring. Lamborghini's supposed to be able to kill you if you don't respect it.
I remember Richard saying that.
This car is boring."
Yeah.
But even from then, I was like, I've never really been a Lamborghini style person. I love the way the Diablos looked. Just sitting still, they look like they're doing 200 mile an hour. I love the look of that car. Yep. I hate to admit that I love the Huracan so much, especially in all of its GT packaging, all the STOs, all the GT3s, all that kind of stuff. Like I got to admit, Lamborghini just dialed those, all of those.
The STO is insane.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's that carbon hanging off everywhere. I'm just like, it's a gorgeous car. Even those are coming down in value now.
Yeah. We're seeing a correction, I think. And once again, it's because Lamborghini is probably going to make too many, and they're going to allow too many clients to buy them. And I think the nice thing about those cars is if you have a good relationship with Lamborghini and you can allocate your own car and do a really crazy paint job and do a really crazy interior, you can get into one of those at MSRP and hang on to it for a few years and put a few clicks on it, and it'll probably hold its value. If it's a really rare spec, if you're just buying, whatever they have in the showroom, or you're cheaping out on your allocation, then you might suffer in the long term. But yeah, who knows? I mean, The STO is stunning, absolutely stunning, and I think the SVJ is also stunning from the Aventador.
It'll turn heads. Like
Yeah.
even our friends there, when it's sitting there in the parking lot, I'm not going to admit to him that I like it because he hates Ferrari and I like my Ferraris. But my God, that is a gorgeous car. But I won't tell him.
Yeah.
If you're watching, you know who you are. You will never hear me admit I like your car.
It's funny. I think the Murcielago is still the nicest of all the V12s.
And it sounds the best.
Yeah. I mean, the 670 SV, probably arguably the most beautiful, probably the car that really captured what the brand once was, because they've changed hands so many times. Yeah. It was the car that went through the Audi merger or the Volkswagen Group merger. The first gens still look great, and the LP640 and 670s, they look great too. I think they'll age the best because a few reasons, right? You could get them in a manual, and there's not a lot of those. I think there's only about 4,100 manuals on the face of the earth, so they're quite rare. And then obviously the SV, there's only 5 factory manuals. Now they're saying there's 6, and then there's 2 conversions in Asia. But those cars, the original manuals, are worth anywhere from 5 to 10. I don't even know, 5 to 10 million.
At this point, it's what someone's willing to pay, and it's going to be a lot because no one. When you have numbers like that, someone could just decide one day it's a $20 million car today.
Yep.
Because we're not letting them go unless you get at least that amount.
And I can confirm, I know this from verifying with 2 of the owners, that 2 of them have over 30,000 miles, which is like astronomical for a car like that. Yeah. But it doesn't matter because they control the market on it. And I think the 3 of the originals are in the United States, and the other 2 are in Switzerland of the 5. And then allegedly now there's an orange one that supposedly got manufactured and then never left the factory, but nobody's found it. There's actually a guy who's really big in the Murcielago scene right now. He's put out a kind of a bounty. If you can provide any information on it, he'll give you $100,000. And there's just nothing. There's nothing on it. So it's a Rancho Atlas car. So it's like that bright orange. But yeah, I don't know. So who knows? Those cars are nuts. And obviously being the last manual V12, and that block is still based off the original V12 that was in the Miura and the Countach, which is what's really special. The Aventador block was a complete redesign from Audi, which is why it doesn't sound the same or as well. But the Aventador is like bulletproof reliable. I mean,
I'll give them that. Other than
the new
lighting
ones.
A few bumpers on fire, the engines aren't grenading like the last.
And clutches.
Yeah. Just the sound when a clutch lets go on a Gallardo because people are launching. I'm like, ouch.
Yeah.
Those are terrible.
But yeah, the new Aventadors, I mean, like a new Aventador S, you could easily drive Miami to Seattle in a week or 2 on a nice rally, and I don't think you'd have any issues. Which is
no,
not
and they're
something...
actually comfortable. Like if you were to take an early 2000s anything, doesn't matter if it was a Gallardo, doesn't matter if it was a Mercy, you were in pain. You go 200 miles in that. That's all you can really get on one of their tanks of gas. Trust me, we've done the Edmonton to Vancouver drive, and the Lambos are the ones making the most stops.
Yeah,
but none of them were comfy.
Oh, I believe it.
The Aventador guys do road trips frequently, 2,000 miles in a week, and they're just like, shit, let's do it again.
Yeah.
So he's right on that one.
Yeah, and they're cool cars. I think they're good head turners, but they've done pretty well through COVID. The Murcielagos have obviously done insane.
Ridiculous.
They are damn near. Some of them are near $1 million now, depending. And once again, it's really hard to kind of talk prices on them because if it's an E-gear, first gen, 640, LP670, if it's a manual or an E-gear through all of that range, it totally changes the price. So it's hard to like tell you what exactly they're all worth. But they've gone up. Pretty much all the models have gone up.
Yes,
2 or 3 times their
even
value.
A base model, which were coming down in the 150, 160s pre-COVID. If you went back to 2017, 2018, I was starting to see the E-gears from like 04, 05 dipping down in the 150, 160 range. You can't touch that car now for under 220, 230. So just if you had grabbed it, parked it for 5 years, 60, 70K for a base model spec that nobody would even buy. That's, and the values are crazy.
And that's the least desirable one. If you had a manual, you're laughing. You're laughing.
5 times your money.
Yeah.
If you lucked out at the low point and got a manual, even like a base manual, again, base, when you're talking about cars like that, is not the same as buying your base Civic.
No.
But it's just incredible to think that inside of half a decade, if you bought the right car, you could literally retire on the sale of it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know I've spoken to one of the owners of one of the LP670 manuals in the US, and they get offers on it all the time. They've got one of their guys, one of their clients calls them, I think that he was telling me once or twice a month, and raises his offer by a few $100,000. They won't sell it. They're into it for what MSRP was on a 670, and I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I think it was around
660. I think if you checked everything with all the carbon and all that.
Yeah, I was thinking between 400 and 600 US.
Oh, US, yeah. Sorry, I was going with Canadians. So you're right, about 420 to 440.
Yeah, back in the day. They only sold them in 2010, so.
Yeah, I know one of our friends who had a 670 with the E-Gear. He was into it for, I want to say 580 Canadian back then.
Okay.
So God knows what the manual would have been worth. I don't even know what they sold for.
Well, the manual. So here's the funny thing: the E-Gear was the upgrade. You had to pay like
okay. So this is what I mean. It's like no one when they started shifting with paddles, everybody's like, "Ooh, I want to look like an F1 car." Yeah. Well, everybody's got that.
Yeah, and people didn't realize that only 5 people actually ordered them with the manuals, and now those are essentially priceless.
Do you think it was because nobody ordered them, or they just said right off the bat, we're only making 5 or 6? Because if someone had said that, I'm sure they would have got snagged up.
The Murcielago SV is actually it's a bit of a tragedy in terms of how that car's press run went, and there's a few factors that went into like production numbers and everything that went. So there's only about 170 SVs. They're all badged to say that there's one of 250. They never made 250. They made like 168 because essentially this is all just research I've done. I can't confirm if this is 100% accurate, but just bear with me. The forums say that essentially people spec these cars out on everybody would get an allocation. You get your number and you'd spec it out, but Lamborghini was coming out with the Aventador. So what a lot of people think happened is they just pulled their Murcielago.
Like the Corvette C7s, they pulled all their orders waiting for the C8.
The order. Yeah, so they pulled the order on the SV and then just went straight for the Aventador, which at the time, I mean, that's how Lamborghini
if you want
was
performance, it makes sense, but collectability,
yeah, absolutely not. And it's a real shame because there were 100 SVs that just weren't built because there was no demand for it, and then of that 168 there's only 5 manuals because everybody was getting hung up on the paddles and
flappy paddles.
I mean, it's the car company's fault. They were all promoting it, and if you got the stick, you're just laughing now because that car is just so incredibly rare.
What did the last manual 640 sell for? I think you'd posted that on one of your.
So
you sent it in the group chat or something like that, and I just couldn't believe that.
Yeah, they're all trading for all over $1 million. I mean, you can't get into a 640. But so in North America, there's only about 28 640 stick shifts. There's only 28, and
so it's going to be a $4 million car very soon.
I don't know about very soon, but I don't think there's no way you're going to lose money on one of those. I think even buying them now over $1 million is still a solid investment. Like, you're definitely not going to lose that unless everybody just starts hating them overnight. But there's so many influencers. There's so many people promoting the Murcielago. Like, it's getting, every year it seems like there's more people interested in them. The SVs are, in my opinion, they're going to be like the next F1. In terms of Lamborghini fans, like McLaren fans are obviously obsessed with those cars. I think those manual SVs, they don't really have a ceiling in terms of price point. You look 30 years down the line when there's just nothing like that around. I mean, those cars are going to be priceless.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
So
it's kind of crazy to think this has happened all in our lifetime.
Yeah, it's nuts. I remember before COVID, 670 SVs were trading, E-Gears obviously, were trading for, 4 or 5, maybe 600,000 for like incredibly low mileage ones in good colors. And one of them just sold on Bring a Trailer. It's not a clean car. It has a history. And like, I think it has one claim. No, it's white. Okay. And it sold for like 1.1, 1.2. So if you bought that car 6 years ago, you had doubled your money. Like, at least. And
you got some cool stories about owning a very desirable car.
Yep.
Wow.
But I still think the guy who bought it got a good deal because, once again, there's only 168 SVs on the whole planet.
And if you can afford $1.5 million, let's be honest, you're not missing the money. So even if the value never goes up, you have a very limited collector car.
Yep.
It's not like Lamborghini's going to go and reissue another 500 of them
Oh,
tomorrow.
absolutely not.
So
No.
you've got what you want. And as long as it holds a relatively good value, you weren't missing the 1.5 if you could pay for it anyways.
No.
Question for you then.
Mm-hmm.
I put $1 million US on the table. What's Connor buying?
That's
And if you want to make a couple investments with that single million, I want to hear.
$1 million US, yeah, that's tricky. So
And
yeah,
if you're wondering why I'm asking them this, we kind of have a plan for 2024 that you're going to want to tune in for. So
it totally depends because you
I'm
can
going to hold them to this.
Yeah, there we go. We'll see what if my predictions were accurate. But I think, man, if you had $1 million, there's a couple ways to break it down.
US. We're in Canada, so that's about 1.32 million Canadian.
Yeah.
But no one deals in our Canadian tire money.
You can take it a few ways. You can buy one or two cars that are relatively high risk, but obviously a high reward. And you can go down the avenue of just
Then go both. Let's hear both options.
So I think if you were going to go like a really conservative option where you want to see at least a return or just own cars that are going to continue to increase in desirability, you can't go wrong with any sort of manual R8s, V10s, or V8s. The 997, 996 Porsches in manuals, GT2s, GT3s. I don't think those are going to be.
Are GT2s in an attainable range right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I saw a 996.
Porsches, by the way, Porsche GT2, the GT2 RS. These are monstrous cars. Most people don't have the skill to drive these things.
The 996 is the really ugly one that a lot of people don't like. That has like that cutout in the headlight. They sold them from, I think, the late 90s till like 2005.
The reason nobody liked them is because they put the same front end on the 911 as they did the Carrera, the Boxster.
Yeah.
And that pissed a lot of people off. Why would I spend 160 on your turbo when the $67,000 Boxster, which was only bought by women, let's be completely honest, looks exactly the same other than a little wider rear
What are you
end.
talking about? That was the Miata upgrade. If you were a hairstylist.
Because that just sold it better. The Miata upgrade.
But
can't be seen in a Miata. I want to be seen in a 200 horsepower Porsche.
Yeah, exactly. Ouch. Yeah, I'm not a Boxster fan.
I'm not actually picking on Porsche. If anybody of you know, I've had.
Is it just the one?
No. I had 3 997s.
Oh, I
two
think you had a
996s.
993 too, right?
Well, but I bought those strictly for and everything. Hey, this is perfect timing. Every time we go into a recession, guess what? People need to unload things really quickly. Mm-hmm. I had picked up, an old 993. We were talking about that in the other episode. Almost doubled the money inside of 3 years.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Because they just, all the air-cooled stuff just went through the roof the moment. I think people just kind of got sick of them after the 991 came out. They're like, this isn't it's getting faster, but it's boringly Porsche. So all of a sudden someone decided, the 964s, the 993s, these are worth a ton.
Yep.
They're all worth $200K now when you could buy them for 70 or 80 3 or 4 years before. Now you're telling me, was that a 964 or a 993 that went for one something?
Yeah, there was a 993 from like 94. It was a Turbo S. It sold for something outrageous, like 1.2 on Brain Trailer.
This is not a special car. Like, I shouldn't say that because the people that love their Porsche heritage,
of course,
they do love the cars. So it's a beautiful car, but a 7-figure car.
Yeah.
They weren't even 6-figure cars to begin with.
No. Well, I mean, the turbos, I think, were
not in 93.
I don't know. So.
Producer Mac, can you Google the MSRP on a 1993 993? We'll get back to you on that. See, we got him in the background. You can't quite see him.
the numbers.
But he's got his headphones on, looking all sexy with the audio board and all the power and stuff. We've got a nice setup here. Oh yeah, by the way, we got a green screen. So I don't have no idea if we did it right.
Yeah, there might be a car behind us right now.
There might be porn playing behind us. I have no idea. Hopefully, producer Mac doesn't drop a big dick on my head or something like that. Never know. Could be fun. Let's get ourselves demonetized.
Yeah, there we go. I think we just did.
Yeah. All right. So anybody else that can still see this because maybe we're on Rumble. I don't know. What the hell are we talking at? Oh yeah, we're just killing time. Well, here it comes.
Was that a turbo?
Turbo.
Yes, Turbo S.
Turbo S.
Yeah.
Again, adding letters to Volkswagens makes a big difference.
It does. Or maybe taking them away because a GTI is worse than a Golf R. So the less letters, the better.
Good call. Yeah. Good call. Yeah.
But
I feel like the Jeopardy theme song should be playing right now.
But yeah,
what is? It's not worth it. All right. He'll get back to us. What are we talking about?
So yeah, I mean, like the GT2s, GT3s, the 996s were known as like the Widowmakers. They were the first water-cooled cars, but they were incredibly scary to drive from, what I've read and heard. So,
anybody that's grown up with traction control.
yeah.
The 996 GT3, no power, all the power. And at that point, you're already at 7,000 revs. So it's facing the wrong direction if you weren't expecting it. They also, same moniker went on like the 78, 79 turbos, because same thing. Big turbo, small displacement engine, nothing until the last 1,400 revs.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you had 300 horse.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody died, because they went backwards into shit, or they were carving the canyons in California. Ooh, there's some alliteration. And they ended up down at the bottom. Yeah. Porsches take a very specific driver to drive well, and those 996 GT3s, I got to drive one, and it scared me. And I've driven
with the GT2. The
I've
GT2
never
is the turbo
driven
one.
I know, but I've never driven a GT2. Producer Mac keeps telling me every time there's a new generation, he's like, these fucking things, they're over 550 horse now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're over 600 this generation, and the last one's like 720.
Yep.
I'm like, Porsche's not dicking around anymore. I have no idea how they put enough engine and into the back of a Porsche to put the turbos on and cool that thing.
It's crazy.
To make 720 horse. That would scare the shit out of me driving that. Oh, I think producer Mac might have something.
Let's see.
The problem is that it's pre-internet.
Oh, pre-internet. So you got to find a sticker.
Well, I can't.
All right, you know what?
I have found
he's found.
On Bring a Trailer that claims a 97 911 Turbo S.
But that's already 996. Oh, wait, no, that's 993. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so it's 4 years too new.
Yeah.
They claimed the MSRP was 156,000 US.
In 97, really?
Yeah, that seems accurate.
But again,
one sec.
I can't find anything from 93 at all.
Someone must have a brochure on
90,
Let me see this.
94, I think.
1994 Porsche Turbo S MSRP.
There's another one here on VW Vortex that claims MSRP.
Oh, so it did cross.
Turbo 3.6 cars are rare, with just 590 built for the 1993 model year and 847 for 1994, all of which carried 1993 serial numbers. They were expensive, with a list price of $109,008.
Yeah.
There you go. So they did just, I stand corrected. I thought they were roughly around 96 to 98, but they did get as high as 110-ish US.
I just found one here that claims the MSRP was 109.
Yeah, that's what I just got.
And that was you got to remember in 93, that was a pretty heavy hitting car. Like that was a quick car compared to most of the stuff that was on the road, especially out of the box from the factory.
Oh, yeah. They used to have the top vehicle shootouts. They'd always throw the NSX in. I don't know why. Like, it handled quite well, but it had an Accord engine in the back. It was only, I think the first gens had like 230 horse and didn't make it 270 till halfway through. But when you did the top car tuner shootouts, they always threw in the super turbos. And by 94, they were conservative 320 horse turbocharged. You can do anything with them. They'd have the 355 Ferrari. They'd maybe throw a Diablo in there, but then you had your Vets up in the 340 horse, your Viper that started the horsepower wars, first car with 400 horse from the factory. So to throw the Porsche in there, that was still quite pricey, because a Viper back in the day, Mac, what were they? They were about 60 US.
Yeah, they weren't a ton.
Yeah. So you think to go and drop 109 on something that didn't have a Ferrari or Lambo badge in 94 coming out of a recession, that was a big dollar value.
Well, Porsche also had a pretty solid reputation because they beat out the F40 with the 959 by having I think it did 1 mile an hour faster than the F40.
Yeah.
Which is
here we go.
Really
Producer
good
Mac.
marketing technique.
The four options, the Dodge Viper RT10 Roadster was 49,000 US.
Insanely cheap, yeah.
Dodge Viper RT10, this is the 94, was 40, 93 was 40, 44.9? 49,000 US dollars, so not even $50,000. And it, again, you had 100 more horse than the Porsche.
But you were going to die.
Oh, yeah. The Vipers were next to impossible to drive. Let's be completely honest. But, man, they look good in a quarter mile. Or when Dan Archer was driving them in the World GT Championship Series.
I just watched a documentary on that GT1 racing last night. The Vipers just dominated for like 5 years.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't even close.
It was nuts.
Like the C7 or the C6R and then the C7R, dynamite cars. They could not keep up with the Vipers.
I mean, even
Anywhere.
pre that, like late 90s, early 2000s, they were smoking everything.
Yes. Didn't matter what brand was there.
Yeah, it wasn't until I think the M3s came out with the V8 GT. I don't know what class it was, but the 24-hour racing series where they had the BMW, the E46 M3s with the V8s. That's the only thing that like beat out the Vipers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then, but when the C7R came out under Ron Fellows, he just cleaned up. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, the Vipers dominated for, I bet you it was 7 years in all the endurance racing.
It's crazy. And they had so many rules and regulations that tried to stomp them out in the way they eventually, actually the crazy one was in their last season, they set a displacement requirement. They said it couldn't be over like 6 liters.
And they did that on purpose.
So you know what they did? They blocked off the front 2 cylinders and turned it into a 6-liter V8.
Hey,
and they
you do what you got to do.
It was crazy. Or a 6.2 liter V8. And then I think they still came in third or something, which is hilarious.
Yeah. We didn't even take weight out of the car. We just didn't fire 2 of the cylinders.
Yeah.
It's funny what you'll do for racing because
Yeah.
Dodge followed all the rules.
Yep.
They when they originally did their car, they had enough cars from homologation.
Yep.
They just basically took a car out. And don't get me wrong, I am not a Dodge fan.
No.
But credit where it's due. When you can dominate the world and they have to change the rules so you stop winning,
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
It's a good testament.
It's like when they had to ban the R32 GTRs from running the GT series in Japan in the 1980s. Mm-hmm. No one could keep up with them. It wasn't even because they were powerful, but they were quite well balanced. I've had a few of the R32 GTRs, and the all-wheel drive.
Yep.
Because the weather in Japan, it's like where we're from. It can be raining on half the city and sunshine. So every time there was on the big tracks where the big sweeping corners, or even the tight ones, when they're wet coming at it. Oh, that sounds funny. I'm not back on the porno. So when the corners are really tight and you're coming out of it under power, the Supras, the NSXs, all that kind of stuff, they just couldn't put the power down, and the GTRs would be lengths ahead coming out.
Yeah.
So after one season, they were like, sorry,
Yep.
no all-wheel drive.
It's the same as what Audi did to get into
Yes.
rally. They very sneaky about it. They convinced, I don't know what year it was, but their guy who basically met with all the other teams before the season started at the very last second said, can you guys just make this amendment saying that, we'd like to allow all-wheel drive cars to enter this class?
Oh,
And at
you're
the
talking
time,
early 80s when they destroyed everyone with that.
I think late 70s even. Maybe late 70s. Because it took them a couple years to develop the car, but they changed the rules in advance. And the perception of the rally group, I don't know if it was the World
It wasn't
Rally.
Group B, though, was it?
No, this is pre-Group B.
Okay.
This is when they just had they came out with the first Quattro, and they developed this car secretly because Audi was doing a government program for the German to compete with the G-Wagon essentially, and they essentially when they changed these rules, the rally board thought, oh, they're going to enter a truck. That's what they thought. They're like, okay,
it'd
well,
be a big
whatever.
joke.
Yeah, this is a joke. But what they were actually doing was setting up their 4-door Quattro. Well, it wasn't called the Quattro back then. It was like a 300 or 400 Audi 400. I don't know. And they put that all-wheel drive system in it. And they showed up, I think late 70s, early 80s, and just crushed it for years.
Yeah.
So
Left everybody on the back burner, and they're just like, we're playing the wrong game.
Yep.
We brought a really, really dull knife to this gunfight.
yeah. But
Yeah, wow. I like how this
we got
kind of
way off
transitioned into,
subject.
but I love this kind of stuff because the people who are listening, if you're car guys, like even if you got offended at the beginning with the McLaren stuff, this is all in fun.
Yeah.
But the fact that these conversations evolve as we're doing this, and it's fun to be with people who there's a big age difference between Connor and I, but the fact that we share the same love of vehicles, neither of us would be upset if someone's like, here's the keys, go drive my McLaren. That's not what we're saying.
yeah,
We're not saying that
definitely
they're not great cars, because we all love cars. And please comment below on anything you want us to touch on in the future. I've been a huge F1 fan since 93, 94. I was big into drifting. I'm just trying to think of Time Attack I was part of.
Time Attack, yeah.
That kind of stuff. Built all the cars for it. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, chances are I raced my Formula Arco. If you ever want to Google what that is, it's an Arcobaleno. It's a really lightweight YZF1 powered Formula chassis out of Italy. I love motorsports, and that's what Connor and I click so well, because he literally knows everything that I fell in love with at like 12, 13, 14 years old. Somehow he kind of picked up. He loves the F40. He loves pre-2011 vehicles. And I'm just like, shit, that's when I lost interest in 12. Yeah, I had my 458, but that was the last of the newer vehicles that I actually truly loved. But I still liked my 430 better. It just felt better. So we will talk about anything on
absolutely.
the car segments. You know what I mean? So is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, personally, like I haven't been around long enough or generate enough income to own some of these cars, but I've got a lot of friends that have had them, and I'm obviously a huge enthusiast. I like drag racing. I think that's the only one that you didn't mention, so I'd be happy to talk about drag racing as well. But like you said,
Not
time
often,
attack.
though. Not often, though.
No, not often.
Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, but yeah,
I've been in 9-second vehicles. I've never been into the 8s and 7s kind of thing, but
Yeah.
I didn't find anything over 10 seconds. I'm sorry if you're into drag racing. I love when you guys, comment and say, oh, I love this and stuff like that. I would never knock what you guys are doing, but to me, like an 11-second quarter mile is a boring ride. So I'm definitely not critiquing you guys, but we're not really going to get too much into drag racing if you got a 14-second car. We'll do a shout out if you want to send a picture or anything like that, or email it in. But we're not going to get big into that. Sorry, producer Mac needs something to.
Sorry. It says here, 1979, the FISA legalized all-wheel drive for rallying, but the manufacturers believed it was too heavy or complicated. Audi was the only one who was prepared to do it. They launched the Quattro in 1980 at the Geneva show,
what I thought.
Yeah.
and then rallied it in the 1980 Janner Rally in Austria.
Okay, so if you didn't quite pick that up, what had happened is in '79 they said it was legal. The FISA at the time said it was going to be legal going into the 1980 season to use all-wheel drive, thinking that no one would do it because it would add too much weight, making the cars uncompetitive. So Audi launched the car in '80, didn't race it till '81, and basically just.
cleaned house.
Yeah, that is an understatement. They were finishing the next rally before the current rally was over. It was that ugly.
Yeah. And I only mention that, like, I'm a huge Audi fan. First car I ever drove was a original, I think it was a 94 Audi Quattro that my neighbors gave to my dad, and I learned how to drive stick on it. So I've got a big soft spot for Audi. And then I owned a bunch of Audis since then. But a lot of people give like rally, when they think rally, they think Subaru because of obviously like Colin McRae and everything. But a lot of people don't really give Audi the credit. Like, they developed all-wheel drive. They have one of the best systems, or had, I guess, kind of when they went electric. But I think it's called a Gleason torsion system in their all-wheel drive platform, and that's what they ran for 30 odd years, and it was just the most bulletproof, incredibly reliable, incredibly effective platform that really solidified the championship.
Credit where it's due. Like, it doesn't have to be, it may not be the best tech now, but these companies who sink at that time tens of millions of dollars into something, like tens of millions is not a number now, but when you used to sell cars for $7,000 or $8,000 in the 70s, that was an expensive car. Keep that in mind.
Even less than that.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, you were buying, regular car or automakers high-end model for $7,000 or $8,000 to go and drop 10 or 20 or 40 million dollars to develop a system you're investing for the next 30 years of your life. That is huge. Like, people don't realize that things like VTEC, that's an Alfa Romeo thing from what? Producer Mac, is that the 54, 55 Alfa Romeos? We're using a variable timing system.
Yeah.
We think it's Integra Type R because that's my generation, sorry, you young kids. You weren't even born when they released the Type R. But yeah, the Type R was an absolutely deadly car. If you ever looked at the Speed Vision World Challenge Series, no one could keep up with this little Honda and its high revving engine.
Yeah,
But people only think VTEC is a Honda thing. Hell no. That was being done by the Italians 70
absolutely.
years ago.
Yep.
It doesn't mean it worked extremely well, but this is just it. If someone isn't willing to put the money up, and like I said, tens of millions in the 70s is the equivalent of 200 or 300 million now.
Yeah.
I think, I don't remember what the number was, but when Toyota Producer Mac, you may know this one, when they redeveloped the Corolla chassis in the late 90s or early 2000s, wasn't it something crazy like they put in $100 million to redevelop the new platform of what we know as the Corolla? But in Japan, you got to remember, in a lot of Asia, the Corolla was 4 different chassis. Here, we just got the same looking car. $100 million.
That's nuts.
To develop the chassis they would use for the next 15, 16 years of a Corolla.
I know when I had to learn a lot about all sorts of cars when I was in car sales, I found out some ridiculous stat that like Toyota invest 7 times more than every other manufacturer into research and development. Like
Oh,
they are
God.
the heaviest influence in terms of, like creating the best quality product. And I know that was really demonstrated when they partnered on the Supra and the Z4, and that deal almost fell through a couple times, to my understanding, because Toyota would go get BMW to stress test the parts that BMW manufactured, and they would fail every
Toyota. Yes.
Yeah, they would fail every Toyota.
Just because
stress
you
test.
said that, and this is something I'd learned from producer Mac, because I used to race beater Corollas. When they, and all you AG engine lovers, whether it's the 3AG, 4AG, doesn't matter. TRD and the Toyota division for engine building used to stress test their 112 horse in the 4AG, the original twin cam fuel injected. The North American one had 112 horse. Do you want to know what they did to get that engine ready for? We approve it for regular road use. What they'd do is they would set it up on the dyno. They would run it for half an hour at like 3,000 revs. Turn it off, let it cool down, change the oil, check for any type of flaking, metal flakes, bad oil, whatever. Fill it back up with oil. Sit it at 4,500 revs for another half an hour with no cooling. Drain the oil, check again. They did this 4 or 5 more times and then upped the red line to a level that was higher than what they sold the car for, and drove it for another, ran it for another half an hour.
That's insane.
If it survived without cooling,
That's crazy.
they decided that engine was good enough for you to use in your road car.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
But this goes exactly what he's saying. Toyota has the highest level of R&D. So when people we used to come to me like, oh no, Honda's the best for racing, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, Honda makes great cars, but I'd rather have something so overbuilt.
No, they make great lawnmowers. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now we're going to get the most hate ever.
My dad's got a Honda lawnmower that's like 25, 30 years old now, and it's it's still running great. I don't even think he's done more than
We
an oil
might get
change.
canceled with all the hate on that one. Oh, wow. Oh, producer Mac's going to interject again.
First incident of variable valve timing on the road, 1903 Cadillac.
1903
Oh,
Cadillac had
yeah.
variable valve timing.
Inlet valve gear internal combustion engine pattern.
Inlet valve gear, internal combustion engine powertrain. Jesus.
Fiat was the first company to patent a functional automotive variable valve timing system, which included
Fiat.
variable lift.
So Fiat was the first to patent it, put it into production. What year was that?
That was with lift.
With lift.
With lift. That was 1958 or 1960.
That must be what I'm thinking, yeah. For some reason I said Alfa Romeo. I do correct
Well,
myself.
The Alfa Romeo Spider 2000.
That's the one, yeah.
That was the first car first production car.
First production
manufactured
car
variable valve timing system in a production car.
in a production car.
1980.
19
Interesting.
Oh, the little guy. Okay. So it was Alpha that first offered it for road use, but
Production car.
okay, yeah. And then in 1980 it was available everywhere. It's too bad those engines didn't last.
You know, everyone who I've talked to, especially my friends who live in Europe that are big car guys, they all say you have to own an Alfa Romeo at one point in your life because they're terrible, but there's something with them.
Oh, they're so
just
iconic. Whipping those
Yeah.
things around. I don't remember the generation, but I love it. It's the most unassuming car. Producer Matt, can you figure out what year they came from? Those rounded off. Think Datsun 510. I used to love Datsun 510, so I love that 68 to 73. I just love the car. They were super lightweight, 4-wheel independent suspension, no power. I don't remember what year the Alfa Romeo is, that it looks kind of like a Datsun 510. Is it a 1968-ish?
they didn't really sell them here. Like not
No. It's something that everyone in Europe had
Oh, yeah.
as like their our beater, like our Chevette, our Dodge Omnis and stuff
Sunfire.
like that. This is the car that everybody drove. It literally had, again, no power steering, drum brakes all the way around. Or maybe they had front discs by that point. That's the one. What year is that?
Yeah.
GTV 1968.
Yeah,
I was there.
GTV.
1968 GTV, and I love that stuff. There's
Yeah.
no weight in them. It's literally
They're also
a 1900.
beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous Italian styling,
They're beautiful. Yeah.
but blandly gorgeous.
And it is terrible. Like
You're not wrong. That's what you would see along the highway broken down.
I mean, it's gonna break.
It's
but
gonna
I mean, at least if
But
you're
it's
wearing
pretty when it breaks. Same idea as Lamborghini.
exactly, if you're wearing like a nice shirt, some khakis, some nice pants, nice shoes, and you're standing having a cigarette on the side of the road while you're alpha cools. I mean, it's not the worst look in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, you have the cigarette, so it looks like you're planned, when really you just know, all right, in 12 minutes from now I can get back in and drive.
Yeah, exactly. No, but yeah, they're beautiful cars. Beautiful cars. I wish they sold them more here, but obviously they would just have all rusted away by now if they did.
And I know he hasn't put his hand up, but I know producer Mac wants to bring up, hey, cars that should never have been sold but are oddly beautiful. What is it? The '78 Citroen with the one wheel in the back. The DS.
The DS. Yes.
I don't know if he's going to put a picture of it right here.
Stunning car.
But if cars you didn't know existed, because we probably only got 11 in North America.
That is largely considered to be one of the most beautiful cars ever made.
Okay,
Didn't that thing have pneumatic suspension? Yeah. So the suspension in that thing.
Hydrogas.
Yes, it was. I remember watching a documentary on those things, and it was more comfortable than a Phantom, or the equivalent of a Phantom at the time. More comfortable than any Rolls.
Some people say that it has the best ride of any car ever made.
Yes, the best ride of any car ever made.
You probably can't hear producer Mac. We're going to have to get him mic'd up one day. But he says some people consider it the best riding car. Not driving, because it's not going to handle worth shit, but the best riding car ever made.
Yeah.
At any given point.
Such a fascinating company. Like Citroen they've had so many iconic cars. I think they actually produced the first, I don't know what model it is or anything. I just remember seeing a clip of this in like a newspaper article from like 10 years ago of this like gold station wagon in Egypt that had done like 2 or 3 million kilometers. Like, and it had never had a replacement engine, just constant service and belts and everything. But they actually used to make reliable cars. I don't think they do anymore, but I don't know.
They made a really cool rally car about 15 years ago when it started getting away from the big manufacturers, and it was more like, I don't want to call them coach builders, but smaller independent companies like Seat and Citroen got involved. They made some really sick looking WRC cars.
Yeah. WRC was a cool series.
Because I think Sebastian Loeb started out in a Citroen.
Yep, he was.
And he was kicking ass in that thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Good on you, because I didn't watch rally for a long time. Then I found out a few years ago you're the most winning driver. So, hey, congratulations, Sebastian. I watched you as a rookie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yes, I'm old. Deal with it.
I only knew about him because I used to play Gran Turismo 5, and his car was in Gran Turismo 5 in like 2000.
Hey, you know you're somebody if you're in Gran Turismo.
That's right. Yeah, that's like probably the best like arcadey sim. I remember growing up with it, and it's just timeless.
Gran Turismo 5, these kids in their expensive stations. I still remember GT1.
I had GT2.
Formula 1 98.
Oh, God. Yeah, 1 pixel is your car.
Yeah, exactly. Just bumping pixels. You're like, damn, these graphics are kicking ass. Yeah. Remember when Mario just used to do this? All right. I don't know. Are we wrapping this one up? It sounds like we kind of went everywhere.
Well, here's the problem. I think you asked
here's the problem.
You asked me a question.
Oh, you still haven't answered my question.
Yeah, I know.
Damn it. I'm putting $1 million US on the table.
Okay, $1 million on the table. Here's what I'd pick. If I had to make a really kind of a risky but educated guess, I'd pick up a Ford GT. I think
more
like
specific.
an 05, 06 first gen.
So the re-edition 05, wait.
Particular,
05, yes,
yeah. So like the first, like after the GT40. Yeah. Specifically, if you could, a Heritage Edition car.
You can't get that under $1 million.
Heritage cars, yep, barely. But I don't think they're going anywhere but north. For sure.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't even realize you could still get a 6-figure one. We had friends selling before COVID for $657 US.
Yeah, I think
you guys selling.
They're still kind of in that ballpark. Maybe a few of them have surpassed that, like ones that are owned by celebrities and whatnot. But even still, a normal Ford GT as well, if you could get into one of those, I don't think you're definitely not going to lose money on them. Are they great cars? Not really. Do they have an insane following? Yes, and they'll be iconic forever, especially if you get like blue with the white stripes or red with the white stripes.
Yeah. You can't have too many of a good thing. That some looks, it doesn't matter if it's duplicated. You know exactly why it's there. You know exactly what it means, and it just fits. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think you could go wrong with anything from like 1990 to 2010 with a manual. Honestly, I think anything with that criteria, and what I mean by that is like your Ferrari 360s, F355s, your Porsches.
If you could even luck out and find somebody that doesn't know what they have with $1 million, and you could go buy 11 or 12 Mark IV Supras,
Oh,
Turbos
absolutely.
with manuals, you will not lose money on those.
Yeah, left-hand drive ones, they're not doing bad at all.
There was a manual swap one that you showed me on the auction site, and I picked. I was within like $5,000 on what I was like. Oh, if that was an original manual car, that's a $200,000 car.
Yep.
And I was like, but it's been swapped in. You can probably knock 40 or 50 off. We had this conversation the next day. It went for 150.
Yeah, still six-figure car.
That was a $60,000 car new. If you had it fully clicked off.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
For $1 million though, man, I don't know. Like these days, even like the latest rendition of the Diablo, I think it's the 6.0 SE.
Sorry.
Those are 1.4 now. Those are 1.4,
Sorry, I'm not giving you an
1.6.
extra 0.4. I'm if that's what I know you're buying, I'm not.
They are insanely, they've gone through the roof. CGTs can't get those anymore for less than $1 million. Carrera GTs. It's tough. It's like all those cars have kind of
All those
gone
cars
that
that
way.
just spontaneously light on fire. There's not a lot of them left, so they all maintain value.
That's right. You know what you had, a 430 manual. I think that's a great car to get into for sub 500,000 now.
Jesus.
I think you can get them for like 350 for like a decent mileage one.
And when the 458 came out, because it was just a dynamite car, a 430 with a manual, you could start buying in the 140s with the 160s, depending on mileage. It's ridiculous. They've 2.5 times their price, regardless of the kilometers.
Now it's funny because in my first podcast, which happened before the new year, I made a comment saying that I don't think the market's coming back. And I still keep that comment true for those cars that are manuals.
Yeah.
But as of recently, I've really been watching Bring a Trailer and some of the other auction sites, and there's a lot of cars not hitting reserve. And I think, and obviously the majority of these cars they're just like automatics. They're not super specific specs. And I think we are seeing a correction. And I think that has to do with what we were talking about in private before this, which is, the economy is going through a real shift right now. Obviously, people are just going to be offloading stuff.
Yes.
And I think there's going to be a lot of good deals coming up for people that are just looking to offload cars. Do I think it reflects the value of those cars, their true value? Not really. I think a lot of cars will continue to appreciate. But where things stand going into this year, I think the rarer the car is, the more it's going to continue to go up. Even if it's a super desirable car, but it's not exceedingly rare, I think we're going to see those start to come down. Like your 720Ss, your 570Ss, your 488s, your poverty spec Huracans.
I will be there to buy one of those. I don't care. People can make fun of me all they want. If I can get 150K Huracan at one point, I'm going to take that. I'm going to throw on some sticky ass tires and go do some stupid shit on the track.
There you go.
On the track. You hear that?
Yeah, no street
Exactly.
racing.
No, we don't need that kind of shit out there. What was the comment I was going to make? But like you said, the collector ones, they're not going anywhere. If there's
I don't think
5, possibly 6 SV manuals, those are going to be in such demand. It doesn't matter if all the rest of them collapse in prices. When you got one of 5 or 6, that's not going down. They never. Does gold go on sale? Hell no. And that's just it. Picking your investment and sticking with it is always, in any form of investing.
Yeah.
So,
If this green screen is working, Producer Mac, throw up the Maroon Eclipse Murcielago SV in Switzerland. It's been spotted in public a handful of times. It's got a factory leather interior, which you couldn't get easily on the SVs. They all came with that Alcantara.
yeah.
And it's a full carbon interior. It's got the low drag wing. It's a manual. That's probably the most valuable Murcielago on the face of the earth. And I don't know what the mileage is on it. It's the only one I really have no clue about because it's so hard to find info on it, but it is stunning. So if that's back here, bask in its magnificence.
Otherwise, we've just had Kermit the Frog's ass behind us. A zoomed in version of it. So,
But,
all right, I think we're going to wrap it up here.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Looking forward to having you back. These are always very fun conversations.
Absolutely.
So again, like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We actually want to hear what you have to say. Like, I know we always go through the regular gibberish and stuff like that, but we love talking cars. So if there's anything you want to discuss or even bring up your pride and joy, if it's something that I'm not familiar with, I'd love to do research. I love car research.
What we could do, send us pictures of your car and we will roast them or compliment them depending on what they look like.
Ooh.
That could be fun. And then we could put them up here and everybody else could judge them as well. I think that'd be fun.
Look at you.
There we go.
I like that. So I guess we're going to wrap this one up. Got producer Mac back there. We got Mr. Connor right here, spec investor.
That's right.
I'm Chris, unfortunately. I guess we're out for now.
See you guys.
See you guys.